Hey everyone, I don't even know where to begin with this, but I have to get it off my chest. Something happened that completely shattered my reality. And now, I'm just left trying to piece everything together. I never thought I'd be the type to share my personal life online. But right now, it feels like the only way to make sense of what's been going on. It's like my whole world has been turned upside down. And I don't know where to go from here. So, let me give you a bit of context. My wife, Savannah, and I have been married for 8 years. When we first met, I thought she was everything I wanted. We met at a friend's BBQ, and from the moment she stepped in, she had this charisma that drew people in. She was beautiful, outgoing, and had this energy that made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. I don't think anyone could resist being captivated by her. We dated for about 2 years before we decided to get married. In the first few years, everything was solid. We weren't perfect, but things were good. We bought a house together, set up our routines, and even started making big plans for the future. But at some point, things started feeling different. Nothing huge at first, just little changes like her spending more time at the gym, going out with friends more often. She began dressing up in ways that didn't feel like her usual style, as if she was trying to impress someone, though she always told me it was just about her feeling good for herself. Then there were the late nights. Nights when she'd come home and immediately go to bed, brushing off my questions with the same excuse. It was just a long night. I didn't think too much of it at the time. But looking back now, I can see I missed a lot of signs. Last week, my best friend, Wyatt, picked me up for our annual hunting trip. This is something we've been doing for years, just a week away from everything, up at his family's cabin in the middle of nowhere. It's the perfect spot for us to disconnect from life for a little bit. So I said goodbye to Savannah that morning, gave her a hug, and told her I'd see her in a week. She smiled and waved from the porch as we drove off. Everything seemed normal. The first night at the cabin was quiet, uneventful, even. We unpacked, had dinner, and settled in. Wyatt was on his laptop, doing some work, and I was reading a book on the couch. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Oh crap, hey Colt, come check this out." At first, I thought maybe he found some weird article or funny video, but when I closed my book and walked over to his laptop, my stomach dropped. It was a dating profile on some app I'd never heard of, and there was a picture of Savannah, smiling. I always thought her smile was kind of evil, but this one was clear as day. A picture she took in our living room. Another photo had a detail that hit me hard. It was the address I bought for her last Christmas. It wasn't just the photos, though. The profile name wasn't hers. It was something generic, like Southern Dream 89. But it was the bio that really crushed me. I'll never forget the words she wrote. I think about what it would be like sometimes. I imagine my dad, now middle-aged but still hot. Sometimes I picture him young. I even imagine a viral retired man. Daddy's girl would be happy to help. So if you're clean and fit, please send a photo. I'm alone for the long weekend and would love some engaging daddy-daughter time. And then she wrote about having daddy issues, that she was finally ready to explore them. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It didn't sound like her, at least. Not the version of her I thought I knew. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. I read it over and over again, trying to make sense of it. My first instinct was to think, this can't be real. Maybe it's a scam. But Wyatt tried to calm me down. He said, people steal photos all the time for this kind of thing. But the more I looked at it, the less I could convince myself it wasn't her. The details in the bio, the way she described her desires, it wasn't something a random person could just make up. And that photo, it wasn't one of those typical vacation pictures people post on social media. It was personal, intimate, the kind of photo she'd never shared publicly. My mind was racing. I wanted to believe it wasn't real. Maybe she'd been hacked. Maybe she was being blackmailed. My head was spinning with all these scenarios, but none of them made sense. I kept thinking back to all the little signs, the late nights, the gym sessions, the secretive texts. I had brushed them off as paranoia, but now it all felt like puzzle pieces falling into place. Wyatt closed the laptop and sat next to me. "Look, man," he said, trying to calm me down. I don't know what's going on, but you can't jump to conclusions. Maybe there's some explanation. Maybe it's not what it looks like. But deep down, I knew it was exactly what it looked like. I felt sick. My hands were shaking, and a weight pressed down on my chest. I didn't know whether to be angry, sad, or just numb. I didn't say much for the rest of the night. Wyatt tried to distract me with a card game, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept replaying those words in my head, the daddy issues line, the desire to feel small and protected. I kept asking myself, who is this person? How could she write something like that and still look me in the eye every day? That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face or those words on the screen. By morning, I was running on fumes. Wyatt asked me what I wanted to do. At first, I didn't know. Part of me wanted to call her right then and demand answers, but another part of me was scared. What if she lied? What if I confronted her and she twisted everything around? Wyatt said, "You need to take a step back. Don't do anything until you're sure if you want to deal with this. You need to have your facts straight." He was right. As much as I wanted to march home and blow up her world, I knew I couldn't rush into this. I had to be smart. I had to figure out what was really going on. The days that followed were a blur of planning, doubts, and anger. I spent every waking moment obsessing over what I had discovered. Each time I checked the fake profile, I found myself sinking deeper into disbelief and humiliation. But Wyatt's words kept echoing in my head, telling me not to jump to conclusions. I had to be methodical. I needed to figure out everything, have the facts lined up before confronting Savannah. For the next few days, I kept myself busy, trying to push away the heavy weight of this new reality. But the fact that she was meeting men behind my back, bringing them into our home, gnawed at me like a constant itch I couldn't scratch. The house, the place I worked so hard to build with her, was no longer a sanctuary. It was just a backdrop to her lies. Wyatt and I talked about what to do next. I had to confront her, but I wasn't going to do it with just a few screen grabs and empty accusations. I needed more. I needed something undeniable, something that would shut down any chance she had to talk her way out of this. That's when the idea hit me. "We need to make a profile," I said, voice shaky, as I finally spoke my thoughts out loud. Wyatt raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you want to catfish your own wife?" I shook my head. "Not catfish her. We'll make a guy who fits her type. If she's really using this app, we'll see if she takes the bait." Wyatt thought about it for a second. "All right, but I'm not doing it. She'd recognize me in a heartbeat." I wasn't planning to have Wyatt do it anyway. We could create a profile for someone else a man Savannah wouldn't recognize. Someone who fit the description in her bio perfectly. Strong, mature, confident, successful. Wyatt nodded. "All right, we can do this. Let's make him look like he's got money. I'll take care of the tech stuff." We spent the next hour creating the perfect profile. Wyatt worked his magic on the technical side while I focused on the details. We knew Savannah was looking for an older man, someone who could be a fatherly figure for her. The words in her bio were clear about what she wanted: someone who could take charge, someone to fill the role of a daddy. I didn't like it, but we needed it. It was all bait. Wyatt found a picture of a man who looked like he had old money, bald, with a perfectly trimmed salt and pepper beard, wearing expensive sunglasses and a smug look on his face, like he'd never had to worry about price tags. We named him Michael D. Simple, clean, vague enough not to raise any suspicion. I stared at the screen as Wyatt uploaded the picture. The bio we wrote was everything Savannah was looking for. Successful businessman, mature, confident, looking for a woman who knows how to appreciate a strong, fatherly figure. "I'll spoil you if you know how to make me feel alive again." I felt sick reading those words. I almost wanted to throw up, but I reminded myself it was just bait. We finished up the profile and hit save. Wyatt leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Let's see if she bites. Not even an hour later, the notification pinged. It was Savannah. The first message from her popped up. "Hi there. I think we might be a good match." Wyatt leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Here we go." I was disgusted. "This is sick." I typed up back, playing along. "Hey, Thanks for reaching out. You seem interesting. Tell me about yourself. Her reply was immediate. I'm just looking for someone who can make me feel safe. Someone who knows how to take charge. I've been in boring relationships for too long, and I'm ready for something different. The anger bubbled inside me. Boring relationships. I had worked my ass off for the past 8 years to make a life with her, and now she was calling it boring. Wyatt nudged me. Careful. Stick to the plan. I clenched my jaw but forced myself to stay calm. I know what you mean. What are you looking for exactly? Her next message made my blood boil. She talked about how she'd always been drawn to older men, how she had daddy issues that made her crave someone who could take care of her emotionally and physically. My stomach turned. This wasn't just a casual conversation anymore. This was a full-blown affair in the making. I fought to keep my anger in check as I responded, just enough to keep her talking. I get it. It sounds like you're ready for something real. She was opening up more and more, sharing how she felt like her husband, didn't understand her needs, how she was missing out on something bigger. You free Friday night? She asked, bold as ever. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a one-time thing. She was planning to meet him. I typed back, I'd love to meet. She sent me the name of a hotel, about 30 minutes from our house, and the time 7:00 p.m. It felt like she had done this 100 times before, like it was second nature to her. Wyatt sat back in his chair and said, All right, now you've got her. I closed the laptop and sat back, my mind racing. I couldn't believe what I had just read, but it wasn't enough. I knew she had been lying to me for months, if not longer, and now I had to catch her in the act. Wyatt saw the anger brewing in my eyes. What's next? He asked. We get cameras, I said, my voice steady. If she's bringing men into our house, I'll have proof. Wyatt grinned. Now you're thinking like a man who knows what he's doing. I spent the next few hours in a haze, the weight of everything I had just discovered hanging over me. I knew I couldn't just go storming in and confront Savannah without being absolutely sure about what I was dealing with. So, I focused on the next step, gathering evidence. Wyatt and I drove into town the next morning, the air between us thick with tension. I kept replaying the messages over and over in my head. Savannah had been lying to me for months, and now I was about to get the proof I needed. But every step I took felt like I was descending into a nightmare I couldn't escape. When we pulled into the parking lot of a hardware store, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just about the cameras. It was about ending everything. About confronting a woman I once thought I knew completely, but who had betrayed me in ways I couldn't yet fathom. Wyatt and I grabbed a couple of discrete home security cameras, ones that blended into everyday objects. One looked like a digital clock, and another looked like a plain black box that could sit on a bookshelf without being noticed. I hated the thought of turning my own home into a surveillance zone, but I didn't have any other choice. I had to know what she was doing when she thought no one was watching. The camera setup was easy enough. Wyatt worked on syncing them with my phone while I worked out how to time everything. Savannah's schedule had been unpredictable recently. Sometimes she came home early. Other times, she worked late into the evening. It made it harder to plan, but it also gave me a strange feeling. How often had she been sneaking around while I was away? While I was working hard, living my life, trusting her. Once the cameras were ready, we headed back to the cabin. As night fell, I set everything up back at the house. I didn't want to give Savannah any heads up, based on the messages from the fake profile. I knew she'd be expecting a visit from Michael D. on Friday night. I wasn't going to let her have the luxury of thinking she was fooling me. Walking through the front door, that evening felt surreal. It was still our home, the place we built together, but it no longer felt like it was mine. I knew what I was about to discover, and I was terrified. But more than that, I was determined to get the answers I needed. Wyatt parked a few streets over so we could keep a low profile. We made our way to the house, and even though I had the keys in my pocket, it felt like I didn't belong there anymore. The place was quiet, too quiet. The normalcy of it made everything worse. I worked quickly, setting up the cameras in the most strategic spots. One in the bedroom, hidden, in a corner where it could catch the whole space. Another in the living room, aimed at the couch and the entryway. As I worked, I couldn't help but think of all the nights I'd sat in those spots, oblivious to what was going on. How many nights had she been doing this right under my nose? Wyatt broke the silence as we finished up, his voice low. You okay? I nodded, even though I wasn't sure if I was. I felt like I was on the edge of losing everything, but there was no going back now. We should get out of here, I said, my voice tight. We moved quickly, leaving the house just as we had entered, quiet and unnoticed. The next few days were excruciating. Every time I checked the camera feeds, my heart stopped in my chest. For a while, there was nothing. The house looked empty. It was the same as it always was when I wasn't there. But then, on Wednesday afternoon, I saw it. The living room camera showed Savannah walking in with a man. He wasn't the guy from the stock photo, but he wasn't just a friend either. He was tall, probably in his mid-40s, dressed like someone who spent too much time watching car commercials, expensive jeans, a fitted leather jacket, and slicked back hair. He looked like he thought he was on some kind of romantic adventure. They sat on the couch, laughing and talking like there wasn't a care in the world. I felt my pulse racing as I watched them. They didn't even try to hide it. There was no shame, no hesitation. After a few minutes, they got up and headed to the bedroom. I couldn't watch anymore. My chest felt like it was about to explode. My hands were shaking as I slammed the laptop shut. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to march in there and confront them both, but a part of me knew that I had to remain calm. I couldn't let this spiral into something that would ruin my life even further. I grabbed the rifle we'd packed for the hunting trip. My mind was racing. I couldn't just sit back and let this happen. I had to confront her. I had to confront him. I was ready to go in, guns blazing. Wyatt stepped in front of me, blocking the doorway. Matt, stop. Get out of the way. Wyatt, I snapped. My voice was a growl, but deep down, I knew what I was about to do wasn't going to solve anything. No, Wyatt said firmly. His hand on the rifle barrel kept me from moving. You're angry. I get it. But this isn't the answer. You go there now. You lose everything. You don't want to lose her. You want to lose yourself. I glared at him, my hand still gripping the rifle. But his words slowly started to sink in. I was furious. I was humiliated. But Wyatt was right. Charging in there would accomplish nothing. I needed a plan. I needed to do this the right way. I dropped the rifle and leaned against the wall, my breath coming in ragged gasps. She's bringing them into my house, I said, my voice cracking. I know, Wyatt said, his voice soft, but you can't let her have that kind of power over you. Stay smart. Matt, I didn't want to admit it, but Wyatt was right. I couldn't let this situation control me. I needed to get my head together. I spent the rest of the week gathering evidence. The cameras recorded every move, every conversation, and it only confirmed what I had already suspected. Savannah was meeting men in our house, in the home we had built together. But there was still one thing I needed: backup. Someone who would see things for what they were. Someone who would stand with me when I confronted her. That's when I thought of Doug, her father. The next few days felt like a blur of anticipation. The evidence was undeniable. The cameras had captured everything I needed, and now I was ready to confront Savannah with the truth. But I knew that this wasn't just going to be a conversation between the two of us. No, I needed someone else, someone who could understand exactly what was happening and who wouldn't be swayed by Savannah's charm or lies. Doug, her father. I hadn't always gotten along perfectly with Doug, but over the years, we had built a decent relationship. He was a no-nonsense kind of guy, the type to work hard and expect others to do the same. He had been in the military for 20 years and now ran a small construction business. Doug was someone who believed in doing the right thing, no matter how hard it might be. As the clock ticked closer to 7:00 p.m. on Friday night, I felt the weight of what was about to happen settling deeper into my chest. I wasn't nervous about confronting Savannah anymore. I had moved past that. It was the aftermath that weighed on me. This would change everything, not just for me, but for Doug too. When we arrived at the hotel, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Wyatt, who had stuck by me through all of this, gave me a nod as he parked. Doug pulled up right behind us. He didn't know the full extent of the situation, but he trusted me enough to show up, and that trust meant the world to me right now. We walked into the hotel lobby, and there she was, Savannah, dressed to impress. The tight red dress, the high heels, her hair done in a way I hadn't seen in years. She was on her phone, scrolling absent-mindedly, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I glanced over at Doug, who muttered under his breath, "Is that her?" I nodded. "That's your daughter." His jaw clenched. I could see the disappointment brewing behind his eyes, but he didn't say anything as we walked toward her. Savannah didn't notice us until we were just a few feet away. When she finally looked up, her face froze in shock, her eyes darting between me and Doug. Panic flashed in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice cracking. I sat down across from her and motioned for Doug to do the same. He sat down slowly, his eyes locked on Savannah, his face hardening. "Well, sweetheart," I said, leaning back in my chair, "I think the better question is, what are you doing here?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Her hands fidgeted with the strap of her purse. Her face turned pale. I don't understand," she finally managed. "Oh, I think you perfectly do," I replied coldly. "You were expecting to meet Michael D. Wright, the strong, fatherly figure who was going to make you feel safe and protected." Savannah's eyes widened, her mind racing. What are you talking about?" she whispered. I leaned forward and dropped the fake profile picture onto the table. "This ring a bell?" I asked. "Because that's me. Savannah. I'm Michael D. Surprise." Her mouth fell open, and I could see her fighting to keep her composure. I thought for a second she might faint, but then the denial came. No, that's not possible," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're lying." "Lying to you?" I said, feigning offense. "Come on, Savannah, you know I'm a lot of things. But a liar isn't one of them. That's more your department, isn't it?" Doug cleared his throat. His deep voice cut through the tension in the room. "Savannah, what the hell is going on here? You were meeting some guy behind Colt's back." Her eyes darted toward Doug, and she tried to play it off. No, it's not like that. I wasn't. I mean, I didn't actually do anything. Didn't do anything." I shot back, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Really? Because the profile, the messages, the hotel, yeah, that all screams innocent." Savannah crumpled, her face turning red as tears welled in her eyes. "Please, Colt, I can explain. I can't wait to hear this," I said, crossing my arms. "Go ahead. Explain how you ended up sitting here, dressed like you're advertising a clearance sale on dignity, waiting for some guy you met online." Her lip quivered as she turned to Doug, clearly hoping for some sympathy. "Dad, it's not what you think. I don't know what I was doing." "I wasn't thinking." Doug's face remained stone cold. "You weren't thinking. That's your excuse." Savannah sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "It was stupid. Okay, I was feeling neglected. I made a mistake. But I wasn't actually going to do anything." "Neglected," the first repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Are you serious? You live in a house I worked my ass off to provide for you. You spend money I earn, and you're sitting here, dressed to impress some random guy because you felt neglected." Her sobs grew louder as she reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Please, Colt," she begged. "I love you. I don't know why I did this. I just needed to feel something." I stared at her coldly. "Oh, you're definitely going to feel something after this. The sting of signing divorce papers, for starters. By the time you get home, you'll find them waiting for you." "Divorce," she choked out, her voice breaking. "No, Colt, please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll delete that profile. I'll go to therapy. Whatever it takes. Just don't leave me." I shook my head, my voice steady but cutting. "You didn't just cross a line. Savannah, you burned the damn bridge. There's no fixing this." She turned to Doug, desperation in her eyes. "Dad, please. You have to help me. I made a mistake, but I don't want to lose everything." Doug leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. He stared at her for a long moment. "Savannah," he said quietly, his voice low but firm. "I raised you better than this." Her face crumpled. "Dad, no, please don't." Doug didn't respond immediately. The silence was deafening. Then he grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her to her feet. "Enough," he said, his voice steady. "You brought this on yourself. Colt is right. You don't deserve his kindness or his forgiveness after what you've done. Savannah's face twisted in anguish. Dad, please. Doug didn't let her finish. You're coming with me, he said firmly. We'll figure out what to do next. But you are not staying here to embarrass yourself further. He turned to me. His gaze was steady. I apologize you had to go through this. Colt, you didn't deserve any of it. I nodded, my throat tight with a mix of emotions. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. Without another word, Doug turned and walked toward the door, dragging Savannah along with him. She resisted slightly, her sobs echoing through the lobby as she pleaded with both of us to reconsider. But Doug didn't stop, and I didn't move to stop him. I sat in the lobby, sinking into the chair. The weight of everything I had just left behind began to sink in. Savannah was gone. The lies were done. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The door swung open, and Wyatt strolled in. He spotted me immediately, his lips curling into a proud grin. Well, he said, nodding at the cigarette in my hand. Looks like you finally took out the trash. I exhaled slowly, smirking. About time. Wyatt pulled up a chair across from me, his voice steady. You've cleared the land, man. Now, the real hunt starts. I stubbed out the cigarette, stood up, and met his gaze. Let's get to it. And that's how it ended. For now, it's strange to think how everything came crashing down in such a short amount of time. But I'm ready for what's next. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Thanks for reading. It feels good to finally share this.